Alrighty, I'm really bad at this, but let's see if I can get to two topics. There are first things really important: the Hunter Biden leaks coming out of 4chan. They hacked his iCloud account. This is not the laptop from hell. This is the iPhone from hell. Which, yeah, if you're Hunter Biden and you haven't cleared your search history at this point and gotten rid of all of these terrible pictures of yourself. I mean, there's a picture of him eating a sandwich with a woman tied up behind him with a bag over her head. I mean, the guy's a friggin' psycho. I also saw people taking screen grabs of text between him and his 14-year-old niece, and trying to say, "Oh, look, this is, this is gross." It's like, well, I mean, not necessarily. He took a bunch of texts out of context where they said they love each other or whatever, and talking about her dead dad. I mean, it's like that. I'm not going to assume that there's something dirty about that. I mean, that's just, you got to have a really, really creative gutter mind, which is easy to think about stuff like that when it comes to Hunter Biden. But at least the screenshots I saw, that was not. And I don't want to think that. I mean, even though there's been things in the past that have led us to believe that maybe he was did some bad things with the kids, including a picture, I think. But trust me, I really, 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 really don't want to believe that. There was some logs of, I think they were Venmo transactions or one of those types of things where you send money to people, of him sending thousands of dollars to different women, with some of them with Slavic-sounding names. I think, pretty sure they were prostitutes. I mean, I don't want to slander these women and call them prostitutes with no evidence, and that's why I'm not going to say their names. I'm just saying there was a bunch of women there, and he was sending them thousands of dollars. Kind of seems to fit the bill. And who knows what else is there? I am not going to go look at this. There's an archive. It's been, I believe they're seeding it's probably already done now, seeded the torrent. Actually, maybe not. I mean, it's 450 gigabytes or something, 500 gigabytes. It's a lot of data. It's his whole phone backup. Actually, do iPhones hold 500 gigabytes? I guess not. You know what it is? It's his whole iCloud, because iCloud, you can have more storage. That's right. I don't use iCloud. I never liked it. I'll never use it. And there's a good reason why, because if somebody gets your password, then they've got access to all of your stuff that you have stored there. I don't like that. I like having all my files locally. I don't even like using Google Drive, more than I have to for, sharing things with people. Work stuff, I mean. I don't mean, videos of me with hookers like Hunter does. And then there's the usual, him with the crack pipe and that stuff. So we'll see. I'm sure there's still some damning stuff to be found. Searches on X videos for content which would be illegal, and I'm sure not posted on that site. But hey, I mean, it's easy to nitpick somebody's search history. I'm sure you could find people searching for really, really bad stuff on X videos or Pornhub, if you looked at every single person's search history in America. Maybe they wouldn't be searching for that particular thing that Hunter was searching for. But I'm sure on lonely nights before people have typed some weird things into that search box. I mean, pornography does rot your brain, so it is kind of to be expected. So I think I'm going to try and leave the Hunter thing there, because there is, in my mind, a more important story, or maybe not more important to the national environment and things, because Hunter is the president's son and all that compromat. It could be used to influence American politics, so the Hunter thing is potentially more important, but something that is just on its face worse, because it involves the death of a teen boy. A raid conducted by the Albuquerque Police Department SWAT team in New Mexico on a home where an alleged robber was holed up, led to the death of a 14-year-old boy, and of course they burned the house down. Now, the 14-year-old was not the robber, one, and two, the robber didn't even live at this home. He apparently just ran into this home to hide from the police, and the police decided to burn the house down with him inside it to smoke him out. And they did manage to smoke out the robber, but the 14-year-old couldn't escape. The 14-year-old was killed in the fire. And actually, the 14-year-old didn't live there either. I guess he was a friend of the robber or something. Maybe the robber, was bad influence, older criminal kid, and the young kid's probably in the hood hanging out with him. But certainly no suggestion that this 14-year-old ever did anything wrong other than maybe have a bad friend, which, kids at that age want to do. Young boys, sometimes they make bad friends with older kids. And that does not justify the death penalty. I don't think that's going to be a very controversial statement on my part. The police, of course, are taking zero responsibility. They have no idea how the fire started, they said. They said, it's a mystery. We're going to have arson. The arson investigators look into it. So the police are investigating the police. That always ends well. The police are very honest when they investigate themselves. So the situation here that we're told is that, so the family that lives in this house is now homeless. They had nothing to do with any of this. They didn't even know these two guys, the kid and the robber. It's unclear if the robber is also a minor. I don't know. If he is, I think that makes it worse. The police had this kind of response. I mean, first of all, they sent the SWAT team to try and just catch a robber. I don't even know if this person was armed or if they thought he was armed. And they literally burnt a house down just trying to catch one robber. Now, this family, where do they go to get their house back? Do they get a new house from the police department? They going to buy him a new house? Nope. They didn't even let this kid in there. Apparently, these two, the robber and the 14-year-old, were a friend of their nephew, who also doesn't live there. And I guess the nephew was at the house, but not in the house at the time, they're saying. And so these guys just sort of ran, and I guess they knew the way in. Maybe they were there earlier. So they ran and hid in this house. And these people lost their home. This 14-year-old who, hey, he may have been guilty of having a bad friend. We don't even know if this kid was his friend. Hell, if he could have been kidnapped. We have no idea. But he's dead. And the Albuquerque police, they feel like they did nothing wrong. And it's just another day on the job, totally routine. Just burn a house down, kill a 14-year-old. Oh, but we got the bad guy. Like they think the robber is the bad guy in this situation. So what? Maybe he stole a diamond necklace or something. You guys burned down a house and murdered a 14-year-old kid. I mean, how is this not insane? Every single one of these cops should be fired and prosecuted. If possible. I mean, probably not every single cop who is there is guilty of a crime, but certainly somebody's got to be held responsible for the death of a 14-year-old over trying to catch a robbery suspect. Okay, can I not? It's like people talk about this when they talk about all the cops are hunting suspects. It's like they think that anything is justified to catch a criminal. Even if it means that the cops have to do things way worse than anything that the criminal had done or would ever do. I mean, somebody said on Twitter, I saw, and this was a very good comparison, it gives him, Philly police firebombing an entire block of row houses just to catch, a few criminals in, some kind of black race cult. I should have looked up the name of it. It was back in the 80s. There was this house that was full of... I think they were some kind of cult, and they were wanted for some kind of criminal activity, and they wouldn't come out. And so the Philadelphia police leveled the entire block, everyone's house. And these are row houses in an urban area, so there's a lot of houses, probably like 20 or 30 houses, burned to the ground, bombed from the air in an airstrike, and who knows how many killed. And at the end of the day, they pat themselves on the back. Yay, we got them. We got the bad guys. I mean, the police have not changed since Waco. They have this same insane behavior that none of them think is a problem. There's no concept in their mind of excessive force. As far as they're concerned, okay, we got a suspect, and then they turn into the Terminator. Except the Terminator probably did less damage in most cases. Because the Terminator was always focused, beelined on whoever his target was. I mean, sure, he didn't care about collateral damage, but he wasn't going out of his way to cause it. I mean, these guys are basically calling in a drone strike to bomb civilian cafes every time that they've got a suspect for some crime. I mean, we're not very far away from that. I mean, would the result have been much different if back in the 80s, if Philly had been hit with a drone strike instead of the bombs they used, or if Waco had been hit in a drone strike, or if this house had been hit in a drone strike? No, the result would have been the same. The houses would have been destroyed. The people inside them would have been killed. That's what happened here. Except in this case, the family who owned the house, which is now gone, alleges that the police started the fire with the flashbangs, which makes sense. SWAT teams always throw flashbangs, and that is a type of munition. It's got stuff in it that goes bang. That could start a fire. Are we really supposed to believe that the kids inside the house burned the house down and killed himself? Just to create a diversion so that the other guy could try and escape, and then which he was caught immediately anyway. And the Albuquerque police have the gall to scold people on Twitter about spreading misinformation about the raid. You killed a kid and destroyed an entire family's home, left them homeless. You're not going to give them a new home just to catch a stupid robber who they've never met. How about, in order to try and catch, let's say, an arsonist, this family goes to the home of each one of these officers and burns it to the ground and say, well, we're just trying to catch, the arsonist who burned down our house, so we had to burn this house down to flush him out. How would these cops like it if these families threw flashbangs in their window while their kids are home? Well, let's say their 14-year-old son is home alone, and it sets the house on fire, and he's trapped inside and dies. I'm not threatening these cops. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, how would they feel if it happened to them? These soulless bastards. I honestly don't know people like this. I've never known these kinds of cops. The cops I've known in my experience were lazy, like to sit in parking lots, and occasionally engage in illegal drag racing. They were lax. They were not, all about trying to bust people and go to the extreme lengths to, enforce the law to, to set an example. I've never met a cop who would burn a house down to catch a robber, especially when it's not even the robber's house, and kill a 14-year-old in the process who had nothing to do with the robbery. And the funny part, the kind of cops that I've known, the lazy ones, the ones that engage in illegal drag racing with their squad cars, allegedly, they would be considered the bad cops. These SWAT raiders who destroyed a family's home, who ended the life of a 14-year-old to catch some petty thief, they would be the ones who are considered the heroes who protect and serve. They'd be considered the good cops. The bad cops are the ones who don't, enforce the letter of the law right down to it. The people who don't just try and act like they're an occupying force in the community. The people who are more chill. Those are the bad cops. The good cops are the ones who would shoot your son in the back of the head for stealing a candy bar from 7-Eleven. That's a good cop in our society. And so please do press S to spit in the comments section on every good cop who's listening. Seriously, why don't we ever see, if supposedly most cops are good, why don't you ever see cops call out stuff like this? Never do I see cops calling out abuses by other police. They just don't do that. And I guess it's because they wanna form their their blue wall and defend each other, and they want to be like a family, and and sure, they might criticize each other in private, but when it comes to outsiders, they stick together. Well, you know what? That sounds like the mob. That doesn't sound like people who protect and serve. So if you want to be a mobster, go ahead, but we're going to treat you like a mobster. We're not going to treat you like some public servant. If you want to be if you want to be a so-called public servant, act like it. Call out shit like this. Say this is terrible. Explain why you're different. Because if you don't, I'm going to assume, and as everyone should, that you were just like these clowns. So with that said, I hope this family is able to find a new home. I hope that somebody donates something to them, and that hopefully they're able to sue the police department, which I'm sure they won't. Nobody's ever able to do that, and be compensated. Same goes for the family of the boy. Because we know that certainly these officers won't be prosecuted for what they did. After all, this kid, since I haven't heard that he's black, he probably wasn't even black. So the media has no reason to care about this. So with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.